A new toy company takes a spin around Gotham. Here's your look at the new Spinmaster toys, the Caped Crusader Batman. It's Creature Chaos for the Caped Crusader. Batman comes included with 3 mystery accessories and a secret mission that he has to go on. Really liking these new Spinmaster toys. I granted, yes, understand that these are geared towards kids. That's the whole plan of the line. But still, there's something quite endearing about these. The fact that they're also superposable, which really, when you think about it, there's very few toy lines nowadays geared towards action figure fans of the smaller basic size that have the amount of articulation that Spinmaster is jamming into them. It's really quite impressive. Before we have a look at the figure, of course, the necessary 411 that this humbled reviewer is going to present to you guys is how tall the Batman figure stands. That question gets answered with 4 inches exactly. And in centimeters, that works out to be 10.2 centimeters tall. So let's have a look at some of the other figures that we had a look at. There is Superman wobbling back and forth. He's my favorite of the bunch so far. Black costume Superman we just recently had a look at. And just before that, we also had a look at Flash. They're all, as you can see, the exact same bodies. They may have tweaked a few things here and there, things like utility belts and possibly like his boots, for example, might be a little bit different. But other than that, like proportionately, they're all about the same bodies to one another. And I'm really perfectly fine that they are reusing the bodies if it means we are going to be getting more figures. And more figures of this line isn't a bad thing at all. One thing I keep forgetting to do is showing you guys the little trading card that's inside the pack. It just involved me to cut the little perforation on the side to free Batman from his plastic prison, and I just had to cut a little bit of tape on both sides. And you just lift this up, and you get yourself quite the nice little trading card with a very cool looking Joker and Batman depicted here. And then from there, you just have to cut along the dotted line. I'm only just going to quickly show you that on the underside, there's nothing happening there. There's no read up or anything like that. But the artwork is decent enough, and enough for me to want to probably cut this out and save this for my own personal records, of course. And then from there, there's a little plastic, little cardboard, I should say. Little locker, if you will. And all the locker will be doing is housing those 3 mystery accessories. When it's all said and done, you're pretty much going to do a lot of damage to the packaging. We're just going to remove that like so. Take that off. There's more tape on this one than it seemed on the others. And there we've got Batman with his accessories. The 3, of course, sections in which his accessories are going to be inside. And then Batman, of course, includes a little pamphlet. What was interesting about this particular Batman, if you looked at the packaging and kind of remember where we were the last time, this one actually speaks a little bit more about a creature. The back of the packaging actually calls it Creature Chaos, which the other figures actually didn't possess. Here at the top, you can kind of see some of the other characters that make appearances under Carnival Chaos, Harbor Defender, Sky Detective, and Arkham Asylum, with the very elusive Joker I still want to add to my collection. There's also Man-Bat, a review of him will be coming soon, a Robin, a review of him will be coming soon, and a couple of variations that you can get depending on which mission Batman decides to go on. Down below, the materials of different accessories include Toxic Neon, Hydro Translucent, Titanium Metallic, and Stealth Metal. And then they also tells you what's rare and what's super rare. So again, like you get a little pamphlet, a little brochure, something that you can get a gander at until eventually you go around. You can't wait any longer, and you just open this up. Now again, these are in 3 separate sections. What's interesting about these is that these are all by themselves, which is interesting because if you remember the ones we had looked at before, I could just open up the top and slide everything out. These ones, they're actually making me work for it. We'll just open that up. And let me just show you, basically, this is what a normal person would have done. Just pop the perforation and open the front up like an oven and be able to pull out each one of the accessories. I wasn't doing that in the earlier reviews. I was simply just pulling everything out. But it's a nice way to kind of be able to access them in a more neat and cleaner way. This one actually seems to have 4 accessories. Let me just double check and make sure I haven't missed anything else. Hello? Anything else in there? Hello? Nothing there, and nothing there. Batman seems to have actually gotten 4 accessories. We'll just dump out everything. There we go. I don't know if you would count these as being 2 accessories, because technically they're exactly the same to one another. I don't know if they, having now, of course, this is the first time I've looked at these, I don't know if they are supposed to interlock with one another, and that's why this little hook is on the side. What purpose does this serve? Again, it doesn't look like these interlock with one another. They don't line up to one another. I'm not really, again, sure what specifically this little hook is for. But Batman does get 2 sort of Kryptonian almost looking blades. Maybe something for potentially a what-if scenario if he has to fight the Man of Steel. He has himself a few kryptonite blades at his disposal. Again, I'm really not really sure what that's for. Batman comes with quite the large Batarang. Something so large in size that you can almost even imagine the Bat Hound Ace flying around on it. It's quite substantially large. Maybe it's supposed to be like a bat shield, if you will. And then Batman has a very not Batman-looking grapple hook. It's orange and almost something I would imagine to be pictured with Aquaman. But I'm not going to knock this, because these figures also come with accessories, and there's some figure lines where the figures are completely omitted of accessories. I'm going to appreciate the fact of when we do actually get them. So let's go ahead and put these things all on Batman. He does have the little hole on the back there, this hexagonal hole, which, again, I still don't understand what specifically it's for. We've yet to come across anything that remotely looks like it's supposed to be attached into that hole. Nonetheless, though, we're going to give Batman the very non-stealthy looking grapple gun. We're just going to have to pry the fingers away from themselves slightly to get the grapple gun into his hand. Yeah, it's a bit on the big side, but at least Batman definitely will not be losing it, and because it's orange, he's most definitely not going to be forgetting and not finding it in the Batcave. And then we can go ahead and add the Batarang. Look at the size of this thing. It's incredible. It's huge. It is huge. And then again, we've got these, which, I mean, Batman only has 2 hands, so it's quite easy to pick only 2 accessories. And then we'll just kind of have these extras floating around. I like the grapple hook, even though it is a little ridiculous in color scheme. Yes, the Batarang is a bit on the big side, though, but that's okay. Again, like, keeping in mind, these are all geared towards kids. Now, I had mentioned at the beginning of this review that these are slightly different from one another, even though, like, if you look at the bodies, you can clearly see that the body is one used to the next one, to the next one, to the next one, and to the next one. I mean, the limbs are exactly the same. They obviously have gone in and changed things slightly. Batman's gloves, for example, are a different tooling to the forearm here. And the boots are clearly marked for Batman because he does have little bat ears on the top. They are very different than the black costume Superman. I just used that as an example, but it would be no different if we brought in, say, Flash. There's Flash right there. Different figures, yes, the same bodies, but different things that have been sculpted on the figures from one another. When I look at this figure, I get very much the vibe of like the old Mattel stuff. Like, this looks very much like a Mattel head. Obviously, when it comes to Batman, there's only so much you can do when you're wanting to make a very neutral and generally digested by all the collecting market and kids. Whoa, that was a mouthful. There's a certain Batman head that works well for the whole market of different age demographics. It's this head right here, which sort of, again, kind of also looks a little bit like the DC Universe or DC Superheroes Batman. It's, again, just a very simple-looking Batman head. And I think it works fine for the figure, although the head looks a little big for his body. Again, we're going to I'll bring in Superman so you can see. Batman's head does seem a little bit bigger, but I mean, if you like, look at the two side to side. it's really only just his ears that give him that illusion that his head is way too big for his body. I mean, the head's not really that much different from black costume Superman if you look at them side to side. One thing, again, I really like about these pieces is even for the things that they tweak different from one figure to the other, it's not simply just let's go in and paint it. I mean, like the utility belt is its own thing. It's sculpted above the rest of the torso. He has all these additional kind of armor lines making up his body armor, which wasn't on the other figures either. So, I mean, they are doing extra things to it. You're not simply just taking one body and painting something different and calling it Flash, painting it again and calling it Batman. There's something different to each figure, and each figure has something unique to their sculpts. So again, like you've got Superman, Batman, I should say here, with his little knuckles. They're plated, armored knuckles, and he's got the little fins there on the undersides of his gloves. I like the Bat Emblem. Of course, it's very similar to what we get now with Batman's costume. The outlining in the yellow and the very large bat logo there. I like that. And this one is also sporting a real fabric cape. And I don't know about you, but I like fabric capes over plastic capes any day of the week. Larger figures, I think, don't work as well because usually the trade-off is they have to take like the little C clamp. You know those. You know what I'm talking about. And that clamps around the neck. And it ends up kind of giving you this broad collar around the top. But when they do it right and they attach it in just like a little slotted section, I mean, the cape looks good. Yes, you can see where the fabric stops and the plastic continues, but the fact that at least we get a fabric cape for these smaller figures, when you want to think as far back as Batman v Superman, those basic class figures all had the really cheap plastic capes. This is at least something, a step up. Definitely a better looking cape than that by a landslide. I think these are better looking capes and a better looking material. It's a little narrow, yes. I mean, again, and you sort of see how it's been attached in place. I mean, you get the best indication of that when you look at the Superman body, where that big open slot sort of is the entryway for where that cape is going to be going into. Still, I don't know what this hole is going to be on the back for. I'm sure it serves as a backpack for something. Eventually, there's going to be a figure that's going to come along that's going to have something that's going to go on his back, and the instant that that gets released, you've automatically got a backpack available for any one of these figures that we've already had a look at. Batman's color scheme is very clean. I mean, the plastic, you got to imagine, they probably have used the plastic for his arms, and then they just attached that to the plastic of his body. So really no paint is required there. There's plastic for the boots. And again, it's all their own coloring. But really, they didn't have to paint anything whatsoever on this guy other than his emblem, other than his utility belt, and of course the coloring in his face. For this guy's articulation, his head rotates all the way around. Unfortunately, his head doesn't go as high up as I would have hoped. I mean, you have to really force it, but it's not going any bit higher than what it's currently doing right now. It's sort of one problem that always plagues Batman figures. Sometimes, unless they put the head just a little higher up, but 9 times out of 10, usually the head always tilts down, and there's always that section where you think you can tilt it up, and you really can't. It's not going to go any further than that. But at least, Batman's head rotates all the way around. His shoulders... And again, companies, take note for what Spinmaster is doing with these figures. Can your toy line do this? I'm going to wait while you answer. No? No? No. So far into advancing the figures, like these figures are getting better with molds, they're getting better with articulation, and yet there's still some companies, when it comes to these basic toy bases, like the toy line's geared towards kids. How many times have we seen in stores where it's basically just this, right? Just forward and back. The legs, just forward and back. I mean, Spinmaster's doing this on a smaller line geared towards, of course, younger kids, boys and girls. But the fact that you can do this, I mean, that's pretty impressive. I haven't seen that in a toy line for the longest of times. Has a bend at the elbow. You can't, obviously, you can rotate the arm, but you can't rotate the hand. He has no waist swivel. It's just basically all one piece of plastic. He has splits on the legs, which we've already had a look at, forward and back. Mid-swivel cut on the thigh. or mid-leg swivel cut on the thigh. He has a single hinge on the knee, which you can also rotate the lower foot, and he does also have peg holes on the undersides of his feet. With these particular figures, I can understand why people are sort of on the fence with them. I mean, they're sort of squat, stocky-looking figures. Let's bring in, again, some of the figures that we've had a look at up to this point. There's Superman, there's Black Costume Superman, and there's Flash, once again. Yeah, I mean, I get it. I mean, this obviously is geared towards kids, which obviously right out the gates, the packaging isn't trying to mislead anybody. It clearly says ages 3 and up, and I think this is a perfect entryway into kids collecting superhero figures. You're obviously not going to start bringing in the likes of a DC Multiverse or Marvel Legends. You could if you wanted to, but if for a younger kid who wants to get into collecting Batman and Superman, I really feel like these are ideal for that. They get some accessories. I think Batman has gotten some of the better accessories of the pieces that we've had a look at thus far. I'm really digging this line. And I'm looking at this, obviously, as I would look at this if I was a kid growing up wanting to play with these. As an adult, I'd like to think I have a little bit more of sophisticated taste. But certainly looking at it from a standpoint of a child, I can most definitely see why this line is so appealing. Batman's getting ready to battle the Man of Steel, and he's equipped with the kryptonite blades. That, and I felt a little guilty that they were left out of displaying him with his hand, so we'll do that in final looks. I still don't get what that little hook is on the side. You can see it right there. What is that for? What is that attached to? The world may never know. What I do know, though, is that this is a line obviously geared towards kids. And, of course, you have to tread lightly when it comes to reviewing figures like this. You're not going to look at this line like you would with, say, the DC Multiverse or higher-end geared towards collector figures. You're not getting that here with the Spinmaster stuff. You're getting smaller, squatter-looking figures. But still, though, it's not a line to overlook because it does have a lot of articulation. And up to this point, again, smaller scale figures like this, it would be even blasphemy to even consider the idea that a smaller figure would even have articulation. And yet the proof is in the pudding. Spinmaster actually puts that in all of their figures. It really sort of gets you wondering, doesn't it, why other companies just can't put extra articulation. Usually we know that the reasoning for that is they obviously want to push very distinct markets. One line is geared towards kids, and kids will like this stuff, and kids don't need posability, which I think is baloney. And then you have the more adult-geared line that collectors are going to want to be picking up that, of course, are more expensive. They have more articulation, and generally, a lot of times, they have more accessories as well. But why not have a kid line do the exact same thing? Obviously, they're not going to have more realistic portraits. They're not looking like they were pulled from the comics. This looks like Batman as a smaller scale version of Batman, but he does have accessories and he does have articulation. Why can't other companies pull off such a feat? Yes, the trade-off, though, generally with these lines that I've seen so far, at least with the Spinmaster stuff, is because you are getting posable figures. The trade-off, though, is it seems like they're reusing the same mold over and over again. And so far, I think it's worked well. Characters like the Flash look a little bit big and muscular. Batman, I think, can pull it off a little bit more than, say, the Flash. And, of course, Superman fits the bill for a nice, big, bulky, muscular figure. But again, they're superposable, and they have accessories. The accessories on Batman, yes, I will admit, are a little bit better than the other figures that we had a look at. Superman really shouldn't be holding his own kryptonite. It could kill him, after all. This line still, sadly, needs villains. I mean, a Mr. Freeze would be perfect. I'm curious to see if we're going to be getting any female figures. I mean, if you think of it up to this point, we only seem to have male characters dominating the world of the Spinmaster DC line. Hopefully, they're going to start sprinkling in some female characters like a Wonder Woman or a Harley Quinn, so it's not just going to be a boys' club, which is what we're kind of getting so far. So more villains, yes. More vehicles, yes, yes. And some female figures, of course, yes, 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 would make this line a nice, well-rounded line, so it doesn't just seem like a one and we're done. We're only going to come out with a first wave and you're never going to see us again. I'd like to see some more expansion for this line, and most definitely villains, females, and vehicles. Oh my. If you managed to pick up this figure for yourself, or based on this review and this review alone, let me know down below in the comment section what you guys think of the Caped Crusader Batman. Of course, like other Batman figures, he's going to make several appearances as he's going to be released in a couple of different color schemes and a couple of different armors, all of which we will be looking at on this channel. So keep your peepers peeled. Make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Yes, that's crucial. Make sure you hit that bell notification. I don't even know if it works, but you can hit it anyways. And yes, most definitely stay tuned because there's going to be a whole lot of videos coming your way. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.